Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to go over Akshan matchup guides for the mid lane. So I don't play Akshan top, so this is going to be strictly mid lane champions. How I personally rate these champions, these matchups. Without further ado, we're going to start. I want to quickly preface that Akshan does have a weird thing in terms of skill level where if the enemy knows how to actually counteract your E, a lot of matchups become significantly harder. So I'm going to rate these just based on, even if they do, even if they don't, just kind of the average versing against the champion, how it's going to go, and kind of how your champion interacts with said champion. With every single matchup, I'm going to kind of give you guys tips and some advice, or just going through my brain process as to why I rate them where they are. Without further ado, let's get right into the video. Starting off with Kale. Kale is going to be an easy matchup. You basically demolish her all of early game. The only time where you start to lose against her is when she's either abnormally fed, you weren't able to punish her early game, and she reaches late game. She does become a little bit annoying. That's why she's not free, but if you're good enough on Akshan, you should be able to abuse her good enough to where she can't really play the game, and you get a bunch of roams off and ultimately snowball the game to where Kale cannot reach level 16 and carry the game. Next up, we have Zerath. Zerath is going to also be at an easy. Generally speaking, a lot of control mages that either struggle to latch onto you or basically have low self-peel options are going to be fairly easy. Zerath, in my opinion, is one of the easiest control mage matchups because one, you can dodge a lot of his abilities. I feel like dodging his Q, dodging his W. If you know how to sidestep, Zerath is a pretty easy matchup, and then his E is the only thing you have to really pay attention to. If you dodge his E, you 100-0 him with no counterplay. Next we have is Ahri. Ahri used to be an easy matchup, but I feel like in this current meta, I'm going to put Ahri in medium. So take medium as a strictly skill rating where you can win and you can lose, right? So Ahri is in the similar boat with Zerath in the sense that her charm is her only way to self-peel. And the difference between Zerath and Ahri is the fact that Ahri actually has 3 dashes. So if you do not have ults, there's chances that Ahri can live, whereas Zerath cannot. So that's why Ahri is a little bit more difficult. Plus, Ahri has more setup, she's more agile, and she just has an easier time versing against Akshan. Next we have is Fizz. Fizz is going to be a pretty easy matchup. My best tip against Fizz is going to be taking bone plating. You negate basically everything he's trying to do. Once he reaches level 6, very key tip is to stay enough range to where if he were to ulti you, you just E out and he cannot trade back. This makes it so Fizz has 0 kill pressure on you, and you should almost always be beating Fizz in lane. Next up we have is Victor. Victor is going to be a hard matchup. After Victor's rework, where they just made him absurd because of Arcane, he outpokes you, outranges you, and he's durable enough to just survive your burst. And ultimately, like, if Victor doesn't go bruiser and he goes full damage, there's moments where he just 100-0s you before you even can kill him. And then if he does go bruiser-esque, let's say Rod, let's say, you know, Archangels, any of that, this matchup becomes insanely hard. You do not have enough damage to kill him, and he will just stat check, and whenever you jump in, you will die. So definitely a very hard matchup. Best advice here is to play aggressive early, start with E. You really have to try to kill him level 1 to level 2, and you even have kill pressure level 3, but after that, he's just going to start having enough CDR. After his first base, Lost Chapter, he has enough CDR to poke you, and it becomes insanely hard to play. Next up we have is Ziggs. Now, Ziggs isn't really played in the mid lane, but this used to be an actual really good counter pick into Akshan. That is because of his satchel. If you're trying to go in, he can simply satchel you out, and he has insane amount of poke. So the concept of why this is a hard matchup is because you basically can never trade against him. Think of him as like a pocket pick Syndra, right? His W stops you from going in. He has a lot of poke, he has a lot of zone control with his E, and he has a lot of damage. So it's a pretty hard matchup. Luckily, no one really plays it, so that is the benefit. But best advice here is to once again play very aggressive, start E, look to get early trades, and then hopefully he makes a mistake with his satchel. A lot of control mage matchups, you have to wait for them to blow their main key ability that stops your hook, and then you can go in. So Ziggs is the same concept. All right, now we have Jace. Jace is going to be a medium matchup. Generally speaking, I do think this is technically Akshan favored, but There's weird instances where Jace either goes Bruiser and he just stat checks you, or he goes full Assassin and just one-shots you. So this is actually a medium matchup. I do think Akshan wins in lane, but anything can happen. If he gets one kill, the matchup becomes insanely hard because he stat checks you, and then he can also knock you out. It makes the interaction with Akshan significantly harder to play. There's an interaction where if he's in hammer form and he tries to Q you, if you E before he Qs, he can't actually knock you away and your swing goes basically all the way through. That's probably the best tip I can give you against Jace. If you're able to manage to do that, you should almost win every interaction with Jace. But because he can stat check and he can poke you from afar, it is pretty hard, and that's why I don't feel comfortable putting it easy. There are moments where you will lose this matchup because either he gets a kill or he just gets item. You're not able to get a kill on him, snowball, and he will stat check you. When 1 item to 2 item, he unironically wins depending on that item. So be very careful of Jace. Next, we have Lissandra. I want to put Lissandra easy, but I think I have to put her medium, and maybe I might even bump it to hard. When I verse against Lissandra, obviously the matchup isn't anything crazy. You should almost always win the matchup, but in my opinion, I think Lissandra loses most matchups anyways. The reason why I can't put Lissandra anywhere below here is because what she has to offer in a team fight just completely shuts down Akshan. If she ever looks to fish her R and save her R for you, you can never play the game, and that's what makes the matchup actually hard. It's not for the lane. Laning phase is pretty easy. You should be able to beat her. Unless you're taking a bunch of Qs, then she can win. But generally speaking, she just shuts down what Akshan's trying to do. That's why it's medium, and she's not actually as easy to kill as, let's say, a counterpart like Malzahar that we'll talk about later, with a similar concept of just pressing R to stop you playing the game. Malzahar is a little bit easier to kill. Lissandra's a little bit harder to kill, and that's why she goes medium. Next up we have is Ryze. Ryze is definitely going to go, I would say medium probably is a good rating. There's an argument for hard just because he becomes so tanky late game with enough damage to just blow you up to where you can't really win the 1v1s unless you dodge his abilities, which is easier said than done considering he has a route to set him up. I'm going to put him at medium though. Generally speaking, you should win and get an early lead to where Ryze can't really do what Ryze wants to do, which is roam. You should almost always be able to out roam Ryze, and because the 1v1 should be winning, you should create that lead, create that advantage, and then snowball and hopefully beat Ryze. Next matchup we have is our first ban-worthy matchup of the video. It's going to be Diana. I personally think Diana is virtually no counterplay as a champion against Akshan. If the Diana knows how to hit her Qs and position properly to where she can hit every single Q when you go for a last hit, when you go for trades, you can never win this matchup realistically. She will always outtrade you. If she goes phase rush, she can QEW you, outtrade you, and then just run, and then you can't trade back. She's going to be healthy. Even if you do trade back, she has a shield. Basically, it's a very, very hard matchup. My best tip for Diana is play super aggressive, like virtually dumb level 1. Get the best trade you can level 1, and that'll negate a lot of her early game kill pressure. And then towards the mid game where she has ult, you just have to respect her, and then shove when she uses her Q on the minions, and then that's how you're going to get prio. Our second matchup that is definitely ban-worthy is this health spawn called Syndra. Is extremely hard, probably the hardest control mage for Akshan to deal with. This is because her E obviously stops your entire kit. You cannot really engage on her unless she has a reaction time of a tortoise. If she E's you away, she's able to outtrade you because she outranges you. Q, W, R, everything about her just counters you. Best tip against Syndra is start E level 1, dodge her Q, and then EN, get half her HP, and then just look for a level 2, level 3 solo kill. That's the only way you can really win this. Otherwise, you're just going to have to hope for ganks. And if you don't get any ganks, this is a very hard matchup, definitely ban-worthy. Asil is going to be an easy matchup, I would say. Asil, very similarly to other champions that is more tanky on the tankier side, I think you just don't lose against Asil in lane, even if he is tanky. Like, his tankiness never matters. Ryze tankiness, I think Ryze has way more setup than Asil with his point-and-click route, whereas Asil, you can dodge a lot of his kit, especially with his E. Like, he can't stop your E, right? So, in my opinion, Asil is a very easy matchup. You shouldn't really lose this matchup. Only reason why I wouldn't put it free is because he is actually going to be tanky, so there are moments where he's just too hard to burst down and he Qs you and you just end up dying. So yeah, that's why I'll put it in easy. Zoe is going to be a hard matchup. It depends. You could probably argue to put her in medium if you take cleanse, but if you don't take cleanse, there's just too much you need to do in the matchup to actually win it. You need to dodge her E, you need to dodge her Qs, you need to play around her W. She has heavy poke, also is very slippery, and the ability to steal your flash, steal your ignite, steal anything that she collects makes this matchup a little bit harder. And there are moments where Zoe doesn't really have to land anything. She can just shoot a lucky Q, shoot a lucky E, and you will end up dying. So that's why Zoe is probably going to be a hard matchup for Akshan. Seraphine's going to be our first free matchup. If you're losing to Seraphene, chances are you're very bad. Seraphene has like nothing in lane. Like, first and foremost, if they're playing Seraphene mid, they already lost. So Seraphene is very free. You win every single trade. She has no damage. She has nothing. Her R is the only scary thing, but like should be pretty easy to dodge in my opinion. So very free. Play aggressive early. She cannot function in mid lane at all. Next up is another ban-worthy champion. I'm actually going to put this above these two because this is my current ban, and this has been my ban for the longest time probably. That's going to be Yasuo. The reason why Yasuo is banned is because he has everything to counter your kits. He has the wind wall, he has E dashes to stop your E, he has his ult that can obviously stop his E, and then Q3 is a tornado, and that stops his E. So you have to play very smart. You have to basically position like a god and kite like a god to actually manage to win this matchup. In my opinion, it's just not worth the risk. Playing against Yasuo makes you play a very weird style of Akshan to where you're so reactionary, you can't even roam, you can't even do much, that I just don't like it, and that's why I ban him. All right, next up we have is Velcos. This guy is barely played. I'm gonna also put him at easy. He's very similar to Zerath. He's actually a little bit easier because if he's hitting you up with the knockup, you are playing terribly. His knockup is super unreliable. He doesn't have enough CC. He's not too tanky as well, so he's just basically a control mage that has no real way of playing against you. All you have to do is be careful of his Q. If you dodge a lot of his Qs, you should be able to win this matchup every single time. Next up we have is Talia. I know a lot of people struggle against Talia, and fundamentally she definitely hard counters Akshan because of her landmines, which is why I would originally put her at hard, but I've gotten to a point where I actually beat this matchup a decent amount of times. So I'm going to put her at medium. The reason why, there's a technique where you can E still, right? Because normally when you think of Talia, she has a landmine, you can't E in because you'll just stun and then you'll die, right? But there's a technique where you can EN, and before she throws out her landmine, you just jump off, and that's how you trade with her, basically. Also, level 1 is a super favorable trade for her, or for Akshan. You should be able to get half her HP level 1, and then level 2, do the trick with the landmine. You can EN before she throws the landmine, jump out, auto Q, and proc a really good trade. So in my opinion, it's medium. I would not put it any bit lower though, just because she does build Zerath. She does get annoying in the team fights, especially fighting in chokes where you basically cannot go in until landmines are obviously gone. So next up we have is Tristana. Tristana definitely hard counters Akshan. She's basically Akshan 2.0, but she just has more damage than him and more reliable mobility because her E doesn't get blocked or her jump doesn't get blocked. She definitely beats Akshan. I think she does everything Akshan does, but better, except for roaming. Akshan has slightly better roam. So when you're against Tristana, all you're looking to do is roam. You have to take really, really short trades against her. For example, auto Q or Q auto. You almost never really want to EN because once you EN, she's going to E and then just auto you to death, and she's going to win the trade. So most of the time, you're using E to disengage. Next up we have is Zed. Zed is going to be a medium matchup. Zed is a medium matchup just because a lot of assassins, when you verse against as Akshan, if they get a kill either from a roam or from a misplay, it's so snowbally to a point where you just can't really function because Akshan is very feast or famine, right? So into a lot of assassins, you'll see a lot of assassins actually at medium because yes, technically Akshan should win lane. Like I do not think Akshan should really lose in lane against Zed unless you're really misplaying. But if they get a kill, if they get their items, assassins function as an assassin, which fundamentally counters Akshan, so that's why it's going to be medium. Ekko is on the similar boat, but he's actually one of the assassins I think that Akshan really doesn't lose to. There's moments where he's fed and he can be extremely annoying, but even a fed Ekko is less cancer to deal with compared to a fed Zed in my opinion. Because of how linear his kit is and just how easy you can play around his abilities. Just make sure that, in my opinion, okay, actually what separates Ekko from Zed is the fact that Zed, you can rarely EN. The strategy with Zed is you actually have to E towards his shadow when he ulties. so E towards his direction. Whereas Ekko, you can E freely. So that's why Ekko's easy and Zed's medium. Next up we have is Kiana. Kiana is going to be also medium, similar to Zed. You should win lane, technically speaking, but once she gets 1 kill, even if she gets 0 kills, she survives lane, she gets her first item. Super cancer to deal with. She can negate laning phase extremely easily with her grass spam, and she also has pretty good setup as well with ice. So definitely medium skill matchup. Next up we have a Zillian. Zillian I'm gonna put at free just because similar to Saraphene, you're not really interacting, you're just farming, you're scaling, you're basically doing more than what they can do at a higher tempo, right? It's very similar to the Kale matchup, except these two are just kind of worthless. Like, obviously Zillian has R, Saraphene has R, but compared to Kale's threat about scaling and actually being able to manage to deal with Akshan, these two cannot deal with Akshan, ever. They need their teammates, so that's why it's going to be a free matchup. Next up, this might be a hot take. I don't know how the Akshan mains feel about this. I personally, maybe it's a mental block. I think Azir is definitely ban-worthy. This champion is a control mage on steroids. This champ is bonkers. It is insane what this champ can do. He outranges the living shit out of you. He has 2 dashes basically, and then he has an R, which is another self peel. So if you're ever going in on Azir, he has so many ways to escape, and that's why it makes it extremely hard. I would say the only way you can really play this matchup, very similar to Syndra, you have to play extremely aggressive early to a point where it doesn't even make sense. You're playing super aggressive early. Go for E star, go for even Q star. Q star's not bad into Azir, and then level 2 trade and just look to kill him. Next up we have is Gallo. Gallo, I want to put easy, but I might just put him on medium because we know how Akshan deals with tanks terribly, and the Gallo build that makes him go Sunfire and just full tank, you're not really interacting with him. Yes, you beat him in lane, right? Like, he can't really lane against you. He does build tank and he does become more useful, so he's just a tank. I would put him definitely medium difficulty. Best advice for Gallo is start E, look to trade heavy. You can probably solo kill him once during lane, but once he gets cloth armor on his first back, you just can't play. He's just a tank. So next up is Anivia. Some Akshan mains would probably put him ban worthy, but I actually think Anivia's probably just hard. I think I don't struggle against Anivia because one, she is very short ranged. So in laning phase, when she reaches her ulti, you just sit outside of her ulti range and she can't really do anything about that. Secondly, you can actually swing off of her E a lot of times if you're positioned properly. Or sorry, not E. You can swing off her wall. So, and then you can also dodge her Q. I feel like her Q is fairly easy to dodge. So if you can dodge her Q, do all of those. The only reason why she's still hard is because she's tanky and she does control a lot of zones. She's just a cancer champ to deal with, but definitely hard matchup overall. Next up is Cassadin. I probably have to put him at free, right? It should just be a free matchup. Like, whenever you're reversing against Cassadin, you're just like, oh, thank the Lord. Riot's giving me free LP. If you're losing to Cassadin, this means either one, he went Frozen Heart, which is cringe. He could do that, and that does make the matchup, like, probably easy/medium. Luckily, Cassadin's probably one of the worst champs in the game, so that he's not even played, but there was a period of time where Cassadin goes Frozen Heart Rush, basically making it so you can't kill him, and then he free scales, he gets his second item, gets his third, and then he's Cassadin, right? The matchup doesn't matter. But in general, you should fist him in lane enough to where he can't even do that, hopefully. So I'm going to put him at free. Next up is Ireelia. I'm torn between ban-worthy and hard. I'll probably put her hard. She is a very hard matchup, but I don't see myself ever realistically banning Ireelia. The key to playing against Ireelia is honestly just trading. You want to trade aggressive early before she hits her full item spike, aka play to steal caps. So early game, you can really abuse her. And if you do that properly, you should be able to snowball the game to where she can't do anything. And then also late game, she kind of doesn't function as a champion, to be honest. I think her team fighting is really bad. So you should be more useful in team fights. Even if she uses her abilities to kill someone, you should be able to res, clean up, kill her. Unless she's 10-0, it's definitely a hard matchup because when she reaches full build, she beats you, obviously. But I think it's definitely playable, and I would not suggest wasting a ban on her. Twisted Fate, I'll put medium. Twisted Fates, I feel like Twisted Fate used to be easy, but with current builds of just more bruiser-esque, more tankiness, Twisted Fate often goes Rod of Ages, and then he obviously has Gold Card as well, which makes it pretty annoying to play against. You should win in lane. His ulti can match you in roams. Like, overall, he's definitely just a skill matchup. You're both able to roam. You're both able to impact the map. you should be able to do it at a slightly faster level and just slightly more effectively, but Twisted Fate can definitely be annoying at times. Corki has gotten a lot of nerfs, thankfully, but I think he's still definitely a hard matchup, in my opinion. I think, yes, you can win lane, but does that even matter? Like, I have so many games where I beat him in lane. He hits Trinity Force, 1 item, I have 2 items, and then he just stat checks me. He dishes out damage like no other. Really, really cringe champion. Definitely hard. The key to Corki matchup is either trading aggressive early or just knowing to back off and kite off his E. Once his E is off, that's when you trade. So next we got Karma. I'm going to put Karma. She used to be a hard matchup, but to be honest, I don't think many people play Karma mid nowadays. I'll probably just put her at medium. Karma's root is annoying, especially if she goes any variation of like some sort of tanky items. She can definitely counter Akshan, and then she has a shield, she has poke. It's just an annoying matchup, but luckily you probably will not verse against a Karma. Next we got Vagar. Vagar is going to be an easy matchup. Similarly to Asil, he doesn't really have anything to stop your hook. Yes, he has his cage, but cage is probably one of the most unreliable way of actually keeping someone there. You just dodge within his cage and you'll be able to outplay him. He is pretty squishy. You should be able to solo kill him most of the time, and then the only times this matchup becomes a little bit weird is really, really late game where his R does like 2k damage and then he just presses R. Kind of similar to Syndra, but it should never really reach that point, in my opinion. Next up we got is Swain. Swain's going to be a medium matchup. I personally shit on Swain's. Like, I would put Swain in easy, but as someone who also plays Swain and shit on Akshan's, like, I think Swain players just don't play this matchup correctly. You go poke, you can easily outtrade Akshan. So I would put the matchup at medium. He does become tanky as well, just naturally from his passive, so it becomes incredibly hard to burst. You have to be really smart with your E. If you E in at the wrong time and you can't burst him down, he is going to ultimately kill you. So next we have a Silus. Silus is going to be definitely an easier matchup, especially if you take Ignite. You should almost never lose against a Silus. If you lose against a Silus matchup, that means that they're landing their E on you, or that means that they have jungle help. With jungle help, Silus can be a medium/hard matchup though, I will admit, because this champ does snowball out of control. If he snowballs too quickly, he just stat checks you and then you can't do anything about it. But in an isolated 1v1, you should be able to play in a way where Silus cannot really do anything and you should just shit on him. Next we got is Nico. I don't know if I want to put her ban worthy. I've never banned Nico. I don't think she's ban worthy. She is definitely cringe and very hard. She just counters you in every metric. Her E stops your hook. Her R stops your hook. Her R also, like, just stops everything about you, to be honest. Her W stops your hook, basically. Like, her entire kit stops you from playing Akshan. The thing about Nico matchup and why I wouldn't put it ban-worthy is because it's not as, like, insane as these two, where they, you know, they do very similar things to Nico, where you can't really hook in unless they fuck up. But Nico, I think, is just overall weaker than these two champions in the mid to late game, and that's why I put her at hard. She's definitely more manageable than these two. And yep. Katarina, I want to put out a free matchup, but solo queue speaking, it's probably just going to be easy. Katarina, you should almost always win in lane. You will never lose to a Katarina in lane. It is illegal if you do. The only time where Katarina becomes a little bit frustrating is if she roams, because Katarina doesn't actually need CS. She just needs kills randomly. And when she gets 1 or 2 items, she goes in, she can kill you. So that's where the matchup becomes a little bit cringe, but should be overall very easy. Oriana, thank God Oriana isn't played too often. I'm going to put Oriana very similar to Victor, probably not as hard as these champs. Oriana's going to go here. She is very similar to, like, a lot of these cringe control mages. They all outrange you. They have ways of being a little bit more durable than other champions, aka stopping you from incentivizing you from going in. For example, Oriana's shield, Oriana's R. It's not as reliable as, let's say, Syndra and Azir. That's why she's hard tier, but it's still there and it can be annoying. Main tip with Oriana is get really good at dodging her balls. If you dodge her balls, dodge her poke, you can find very good windows to actually go in, because if she uses QW, chances are she can't really retaliate. Even if she shields herself, you should be able to outtrade. So definitely hard matchup. Brand's going to be a medium matchup. This champ's just generally cringe and does a lot of damage, which is why I put him at medium instead of easy. Yes, you can kill him, and you probably should kill him in lane, but he does so much damage, it doesn't even matter. Like, He's just like a suicide bomber. He goes in, he probably dies, but he dishes out a bunch of damage before he dies to your teammate. Very cancer champion. That's why I put him at medium. Next up we have is Rumble. I haven't actually versed against a Rumble in a while. I'm gonna put Rumble probably medium tier. You shouldn't really die to Rumble in lane because your E counters, you know, he can't really stop your E from going off. So you want to use your E as disengage most of the time. You should be able to outpoke him. But if he is on top of you, you will most likely die. Next up, we have Cassiopeia. A lot of Akshan main struggle against Cassio. I personally don't. I think if you're good at dodging, you should be able to dodge your miasma. You should be able to dodge your Qs. If you dodge both of those, you just win lane, right? Next up is LeBlanc. I think strictly, I probably have to put her at medium. LeBlanc is, it's Akshan favored, but if she gets a lead, and also it's just like, it's very small room for error. That's the thing with LeBlanc. If you mess up once, the matchup is unplayable. You can no longer play the game. That's what makes it like, you know, at medium. Next up we have is Vex. Vex is going to be also hard. I don't think I want to put her ban worthy just because she doesn't really offer a whole lot as a champion. I don't think she's that good of a champ, to be honest, because her R is just so easy to dodge. In lane, it is a bit cancer though. Very similar to Nico. You just have to weave in and out, try to dodge their Qs, dodge their main poke abilities, and then you should be able to interact. But definitely a hard matchup. Next we have is Heimerdinger. Heimerdinger is going to go medium. You should win in lane, but if he ever lands his stun on you, which shouldn't happen by the way, but if he does, let's say he's like in a bush sitting and you face check, you will get one shot. So it's not insanely easy, but you should win in lane for the most part. Next we have is Yone. I'm gonna put Yone. Technically he's easy to win, but I think Yone with Doran Shield is just, Yone with Doran Shield plus W makes it really hard for you to interact. He's just out trading you oftentimes in the early game, and then if he ever lands his R on you, you will end up dying no matter what. So I'm gonna put him at medium, but he's definitely medium / easy on the bottom side. Next we have is Gragas. Gragas is also going to be medium skill matchup. Gragas can't really do anything against you, nor can you really do anything against Gragas, because if you step too close, he is going to kill you. You kind of just don't interact with him, look for roams, and then you should be able to beat him. Next we have is Vlad. I'm going to put Vlad, now this is personal. I actually struggle against Vlad more than not, and as a former Vlad main, Vlad versus Akshan, I think it's Vlad favored personally. But yeah, Vlad, he just burst you. If you ever go in, even if he's a little bit behind, you need to be extremely ahead to actually go in and burst him down. Which, you know, it's a little cringe matchup, but ultimately how this matchup is played, you just don't interact with Vlad. Vlad is never going to roam. You out-roam him 100%, and that's what kind of makes the matchup playable. Next we have is Akali. Akali is also going to be on the harder side. She is probably the only assassin that's going to be on the harder side. I'm going to put her, I'll put her here. The reason why Akali is hard is because, one, Doran Shield plus bone plating / second wind, whatever she wants to take, whatever cringe thing she wants to take, it's so hard to win early trades against her, especially considering she can Q back, Q. Like, her trading pattern is so cancerous that she can E a minion, right? Use her E backwards, and then Q, W, Q, and outtrade you, and then follow up with R if she needs. So it becomes really cringe, especially when she gets her items. You basically, how this matchup goes, your R counters her W. So all you're looking to do is sit 3 screens away, press R, get vision of her, and then hopefully your team can burst her while she's in Shroud and you reveal her. Next up we have is Aurora. I'm going to put Aurora hard as well. Aurora used to be medium matchup, but in my opinion, I think she just has too much damage right now to where it's very hard to kill her. Generally speaking, I would say Aurora probably, I mean, you can make an argument for medium actually. I'll put her medium. I find myself killing Auroras, but it's very hard to do so, and it's mostly on them making mistakes, right? But she does do a lot of damage, so you have to be very cautious. This is a very volatile matchup, and I think medium's probably fine for that. If you get jungle help, it becomes a lot easier, but if she gets any jungle help, you are probably going to lose the match. Next up we have is Malzahar. Spoke on this earlier, but definitely an easy matchup. Very similar to Lissandra, in which he has an R to just completely counter you, but he doesn't have the E that Lissandra has, that mobility to catch up, and that's what makes it easy. You should be able to survive against his R just by sitting a little bit behind your teammates, and then he can't really do anything. Next we have is Talon. Talon, I'm probably going to put medium. He's like close to hard though. because he just does too much damage to where he just blows you up. If he ever gets on top of you, you will end up dying. Next we have is Hui. Hui is going to be a medium control mage matchup. Definitely not as cancer as, you know, Syndra, Azir, Victor, Oriana, but there are times Hui is very hard to interact with, basically. You need the Hui to be bad to actually interact with him. So luckily, most Huis are bad. So you can actually interact, you can find angles to EN, you can look to burst him, but it's not easy for sure. Next up we have Nefiri. Nefiri Rerik made her significantly harder. I would put her probably hard. Nefiri just has too much damage to where even if you dodge her Qs, she still kills you because she has such easy ways to get on top of you. The only time you can beat her in lane is early game before she hits 6. And then when she hits 6 with items, she just completely obliterates you. Very hard matchup. Next we have is Lux. Lux is going to be a medium matchup. I'm even tempted to put her hard just because this champ is cancer. Yes, her abilities to stop your swings are less reliable than, let's say, Syndra, but if she luckily lands a Q, you're dead. So that is why she's medium. Next we have is Malphite mid. Malphite is probably, I would honestly put him ban-worthy just because it's Malphite. Like, if he presses R on you, you are always going to die. He builds cloth armor. The only time you can kill Malphite is early game, so you really want to abuse early game. If you're playing against Malphite, you want to think, I have to be useful in the first 5 to 10 minutes. If I'm not, the game gets out of hand to where Malphite builds armor. You cannot play the game. You cannot interact with him. He just presses Q. He wins every single trade. And yeah. And the last champion we have is Annie. Annie is also going to be ban worthy. Annie has everything in her kit to stop you. She has a shield to make it hard to engage. She has a free stun. She can slam tibbers on you. And she has burst. So, and she's tanky as well. She's moderately tanky depending on what build she goes. If she builds tanky-ish, this matchup is literally unplayable. If she builds full burst, it's still unplayable because she one-shots you. So it really depends, but generally speaking, she is definitely ban-worthy. And there you guys go. That is my matchup list. I realized Mel is actually not on this tier list. I would put Mel at hard just because she outranges you. She has a W that can stop your entire engage. The only reason why I wouldn't put her ban-worthy is because, one, she can't deflect everything in the entire team, so you should be able to find angles to actually engage, but in laning phase, you're rarely engaging onto her. You're just looking to farm, look to scale, look to roam. And yeah, that is the list. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to smash the like button. Thank you all so much for watching. Hope to see you next time.